Hello, class. So today I'm just going to teach a quick lesson over the Spanish conquest of the Americas and how the Spaniards moved in their conquest and what that looked like. So this will be very important when you are going to answer the driving question of the lesson, which is how their conquest impacted the modern world and what opinion you have on that, because you're going to have to formulate an argument. So yeah, let's go through this lesson and you will see. I'm going to kind of walk you through some maps so that you clearly see how they moved, and hopefully it will give you a better understanding of where they're from and why they moved where they moved and that sort of stuff. So just a few things to know before I show you some maps. The Spanish motivation for movement was to convert native people and spread their Catholic faith across the world. So that's very crucial to know when you're formulating the argument that you're going to create from this lesson, because when you think about groups being motivated by their beliefs, that really can make an impact for generations to come. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. The voyages started with Christopher Columbus in 1492, and the places that the Spanish expanded to were the Caribbean islands, South America, Central America, and North America. And then this was all funded by the Queen of Castile, who was a Catholic monarch. So she really advocated for the spread of that Catholic faith. So I'm first going to talk to you about these places, these maps and these places that I'm going to talk about, just go in chronological order. So I'm going to kind of use my mouse as a guide to like point you to where I'm talking about. So we're first going to look at the West Indies. So this is when Columbus began the voyages in 1492. He went on 4 voyages. As you can see down here at the bottom of this map where I'm pointing, it shows you the different colors and the voyages that he went on. So you can kind of see how he went from Spain to what we now know as the Caribbean, but historically they're known as the West Indies. So, like I said, he went on 4 voyages and really began to discover all of the new technology and basically new potential that these places could hold for their economy and what they said to have been going there for, which is to spread their faith. So that's the West Indies. And here's another map. I just like this one because I feel like it differs from the last in that this looks like more of a map that maybe Columbus would have had during his time. So you can kind of see the complexity of the routes and where he traveled. So then the next place chronologically is when the Spanish conquered what we know as Mexico, but was then known as the Aztec Empire. So that's why I put Aztec in parentheses, because you'll probably hear that more so than saying Spain conquered Mexico. But so yeah, the Aztec Empire, this was a big deal because the Spanish, this was a very diverse and very large group of people that they were conquering, and it was very important that they take this place next because of the complexity of the area and what that was going to look like on their voyages and on their journey. So this conquest was led by Herman Cortez, which is a name you might have heard before, but he is a very famous explorer during this time period. So I think that he will be one to remember for the rest of this lesson. So you can just kind of see the different areas that they moved and the route that they took across the area. Very long, but certainly didn't miss a spot. So here is another map of the Aztec conquests that kind of shows you the years and how long that took, how it evolved, really, is what's most important from this map. So then next, we have Peru, which you would also known as the Inca Empire, more commonly known as the Inca Empire back then. But this was just another indigenous group of people that lived here and that were basically being conquered by the Spanish. So just yet another civilization facing this kind of interaction and what that looked like in the Spanish conquest as a whole. So here's another map of that. And I think these maps are really good in seeing where it actually took place in location to, like, for example, South America. You see that this is on the west coast of South America, and really just how far widespread this conquest was and how big the Inca Empire was. So you see that this is a very big feat for the Spaniards. The next place is Rio de la Plata in Paraguay. This is kind of a more obscure part of the conquest, but certainly still important. The first Spanish settlement in this zone was the fort of Sancti Spiritu, next to the Parana River. So there's a lot of rich resource here, and that was one of the reasons why they wanted to take action on this area. So you can see another map here. This is kind of in southern South America, excuse me, and where this was. So you see how they moved from the Inca Empire south in this conquest. And then the last one I'm going to touch on is the conquest of New Granada. And this is actually in the homeland. And what they really wanted to focus on here was, sorry, I accidentally advanced the slide, but what they really wanted to focus on here was obviously spreading their religion, but also making sure that they were really firm in their beliefs at home after, I mean, you can imagine after stretching so far across the world, and there was probably a little skepticism about how their beliefs were at home and like how they needed to have that strong home base in order to keep up with other areas that they were conquering. So this is just, you can see Granada in the southern part of Spain there. So just to finish up the lesson here, I like this map because it kind of shows you all the areas that we just talked about and a few extra areas that I didn't touch on, but it shows you what area goes with which conquistador. So I like it because it just helps you keep the people straight, and I know I only mentioned a few people, but it's still beneficial. So I like that map. So just to finish up here, I just have some critical questions that I want you guys to come prepared with for the class discussion coming up. So just come prepared to class with these answers to some of these questions and be prepared to use these answers to support your developing argument. So remember, the overarching question of this lesson is, what residual effect of the Spanish conquest or exploration of the Americas has had the greatest impact on modern day society? So be thinking about how everything I just taught you really briefly and what you're going to find in some of the readings you're going to do later, how that can help you formulate an argument around what you believe the greatest impact it had on modern day society. And here I listed a few questions that could kind of help guide you in that direction. So like, how do you think the indigenous people of the Americas initially reacted to the Spanish coming and invading their homelands? And can you think of any other instances in America or the rest of the world where a set of people used conquest to spread religion? And finally, looking back on it, do you think that the conquest of the Americas are justifiable? I think this is a really important question because it has a lot to do with ethics and what that looks like in the modern day world versus what it looks like then. So yeah, just be thinking about these questions and answer them just on a separate sheet of paper and bring them to our class discussion so that you are able to develop a firm and clear argument.